The world has been in uproar since Donald Trump returned to power for a second time. In just a few years, Trump has changed many things the world has become accustomed to. He withdrew the United States from the Paris Agreement. He suspended American foreign aid. The most recent executive order, the suspension of USAID funding, has sent ripples across the globe. Almost everyone has criticized Trump's move. But there is one African leader in the Sahel who does not mind. In fact, you could say he applauds the decision. That leader is President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Traoré sees Trump's decision as a chance for African nations to be independent and self-reliant. This is why he has made new moves to boost rice production in Burkina Faso. Under the order of President Traoré, the governor of Hautes Bassins, Madame Mariama Keïta, visited the wheat fields in the Bazin Plain on the 31st of August, 2025. The ongoing work there proves what Traoré has been saying all along. Burkina Faso and other African nations do not need financial aid from the United States or from any other power. Right now, Burkina Faso is on the verge of history with its wheat and rice fields. These crops, once harvested, may achieve full rice self-sufficiency. The plants are not just growing, they are flourishing, and it is thanks to Traoré's massive investment in the sector. When he first came to power, Traoré spoke of the need for Burkina Faso to secure its own food supply. You see, the nation has fertile land for rice production, yet for decades, it was among the top importers of foreign rice. Rice is a staple food in Burkina Faso. Demand has always been high. But for President Traoré, importing rice when the land is fertile is not a smart idea. Instead, his vision is simple: grow at home, feed the nation, and never again depend on others. So he decided to act. In 2025, President Ibrahim Traoré personally handed over 20 optical sorters to rice mills across the country. The ceremony took place at the Regional Directorate of Agriculture in Hautes Bassins. The equipment, valued at 180 million CFA francs excluding taxes, was acquired by the National Office of Major Projects. Its purpose to improve the quality and competitiveness of locally produced rice. Speaking at the event, the president stressed the importance of better rice processing. We are officially handing over these sorters to you for the benefit of cooperatives and hardworking rice producers. From now on, we want rice that is clean, free of impurities, and of the best quality, he declared. Dr. Abdurrahman Keïta, special advisor to the president on agricultural issues, described the machines as strategic for boosting national production. He explained that Burkina Faso's rice has often struggled to compete, partly due to weak sorting capacity that affects final quality. These are the latest generation optical sorters, he said. They have 64 million megapixel sensors, able to detect impurities and calibrate rice grains. The 20 machines differ in capacity. Some process 1.6 tons per hour. Others can handle 4 to 6 tons per hour. Dr. Keïta also confirmed training programs will be launched, so producers can use the machines effectively. Representing rice processors, Seydou Konate, president of the Hautes Bassins Rice Innovation Platform, expressed gratitude. With these advanced machines, it is a great relief for us, he said. Our rice will have nothing to envy compared to imported rice. National rice will gain quality and competitiveness, and rice made in Burkina Faso will carry much greater value. Now, it has been almost 1 year since President Traoré delivered this equipment, and his efforts are already bearing fruit. During a visit to the cooperative farm, a 450-hectare site, with 100 hectares dedicated to wheat, the president of the society welcomed the results. We are mobilized and ready to do more, he said. He praised the government's initiatives and the support given to local producers. This first experience will allow farmers to learn and to improve wheat and rice production in the years to come. The governor said she was satisfied with the crops. I saw wheat plants with strong growth at the sprouting stage. This is proof that producers have followed the advice of agricultural technicians, she noted. She encouraged farmers to double their efforts and to help achieve food self-sufficiency. Now here is where it gets interesting. Lulan du Sahel, a wheat flour production plant, announced to the governor that they are committed to buying all wheat production for this season. This is remarkable. Not only is the region producing wheat, but factories are ready to use local wheat instead of importing from abroad. While there is still much to be done, it is clear that Burkina Faso is moving toward food self-sufficiency. Between 2022, when Traoré came into power, and 2025, rice production rose from 280,000 metric tons to 326,000 metric tons. This is remarkable progress. And it is not just rice and wheat. According to the report, agriculture will contribute 16.4% to Burkina Faso's GDP in 2023. The economy will grow from $18.7 billion to $22.0 billion. Tomato production will increase from 316,000 tons in 2022 to 359,000 tons in 2025. Millet production will increase from 908,000 tons in 2022 to 1.09 million tons in 2025. Remarkable again. All of this is thanks to massive investment by President Traoré. His vision is clear. African nations must be self-reliant and independent. He evaluated the resources that God has blessed Burkina Faso with, and he decided to add value to them at home, instead of depending on so-called advanced economies for support. This is why Traoré applauds President Trump's decision to suspend funding for USAID. But what exactly is USAID? And why are so many people angry with Trump's move? From the very start of his campaign, Trump made it clear: overseas spending must follow his America First approach. Just last week, he wrote on Truth Social, USAID spending is totally unexplainable. Close it down. The United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, was set up in the early 1962 to manage American foreign aid. USAID runs humanitarian aid programs on behalf of the U.S. government. It employs around 10,000 people, two-thirds of whom work overseas. According to the Congressional Research Service, it has offices in more than 60 countries and works in many more. Most of the work on the ground, however, is done by other organizations, contracted and funded by USAID. The range of activities is vast. USAID provides food in nations where people are starving. It also operates the world's gold standard famine detection system, using data to predict where shortages may emerge. Much of USAID's budget goes to health. It funds polio vaccinations in countries where the disease still circulates. It helps stop the spread of viruses that could cause a pandemic. According to U.S. government data, America spent $68 billion on international aid in 2023. That money is spread across several departments, but USAID's budget alone was around $40 billion. Most of it went to Asia, Africa, and Europe, with large portions directed to humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. This is why analysts warned that Africa will suffer heavily from the suspension. President Trump argued that USAID is not a valuable use of taxpayer money. His administration released a list of projects it claimed were wasteful. These included $1.5 million to an LGBTQ group in Serbia, $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam, and $7 million for tourism in Egypt. But Trump is not the only critic. Elon Musk, the world's richest billionaire and a close Trump supporter, has also attacked USAID. He went as far as to call the agency a criminal organization. He praised Trump's decision to suspend its funding. Since the executive order, the world has been in uproar. Global humanitarian aid has been disrupted. Staff were put on leave. The future of the agency is now uncertain. And in Africa, the impact was immediate. Much of USAID's money had supported health programs, including South Africa's HIV/AIDS initiative. Just days after Trump's order, Hawaii V clinics began closing. Training programs were canceled, and trans health centers in South Africa were forced to shut their doors. Within a week of Trump's return, the WITS Reproductive Health and HIV Institute in South Africa shut down its key populations program clinics. The reason: the USAID stop order. Soon after, the country's Medical Research Council canceled a grant-writing workshop funded by the U.S. National Institutes of Health. Recipients of funding through PEPFAR, the U.S. President's emergency plan for AIDS relief, also received notices. All activities were to stop. Even the provision of life-saving antiretroviral medicine. PEPFAR supports HIV treatment and campaigns in Botswana, Mozambique, Namibia, Uganda, Zimbabwe, and more. Experts warned the freeze could also disrupt emergency responses to outbreaks such as Ebola and the Marburg virus. But for some African experts, Trump's decision is a wake-up call. Angela Agee, assistant professor at the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington, explained, African countries will ultimately have to depend less on foreign donors and invest more in their own health systems with efficient public finance management. This is exactly the message President Ibrahim Traoré has been preaching, that African countries are far too dependent on the West. And that is absurd. Given Africa's vast human and material resources, Trump's decisions have made one thing clear: dependency has consequences. Imagine if African countries were not reliant on Western aid. Trump's order would not have shaken Africa at all. Today, many African nations are scrambling to cope with the fallout. But here is something interesting. Everyone assumes Africa depends on Western aid, but that is not entirely true. Yes, some groups and elites have benefited from funds, but the majority of Africans have never felt the real impact. Outside of health programs, most other sectors will not be harmed by the suspension of USAID. Why? Because much of the aid meant for development and poverty relief has long been lost to corruption. It ends up in the pockets of leaders and their cronies. The cycle of looting has become institutionalized, and millions of Africans are deprived of the benefits that aid was supposed to provide. If USAID funding is squandered through corruption, then the question arises, should the United States continue providing financial assistance to Africa under these conditions? Instead of reaching the people who need it most, much of this aid is stolen. Corrupt government officials, bureaucrats, and elites siphon off large portions. They enrich themselves while leaving the masses in poverty. Transparency International and other watchdogs have exposed shocking cases of embezzlement. Some leaders stash stolen funds in offshore accounts. Others buy luxurious homes abroad. For example, several African countries receive millions of dollars each year from USAID to fight malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV, AIDS. But reports show that money meant for medicine and equipment is often mismanaged or stolen. Public hospitals are left without essential drugs. Under the Marxist dictatorship of Mengistu Haile Mariam in Ethiopia, donor funds were abused. Money earmarked for famine relief was instead used to buy trucks for forced resettlement schemes. Aid was even withheld from starving areas because the regime wanted to punish its opponents. Ethiopia is not the exception. In Congo, donated food supplies were sold. The funds were used to purchase an arms factory from Italy. Even the peaceful island of Mauritius misused aid. Rice donations, which were supposed to feed the poor, were diverted to tourist hotels. And more recently in Nigeria, during the COVID-19 pandemic, relief food and goods were hoarded. Instead of reaching citizens, they were handed out by politicians to loyal voters. The donors, the World Bank, the European Union, and Western countries know this corruption exists. They know that large amounts of aid end up in the pockets of greedy leaders and fake NGOs. And yet, they continue to send money, calling it partnership for development. If they truly wanted Africa to grow, wouldn't they have found another way by now? Why do they keep pumping in aid every year, when it is clear the money is not changing anything? It is obvious, they are getting something in return. And this brings us to the next point. Aid to Africa is not charity, it is a tool of Western exploitation. Recall the 2014 report. It said Africa receives about $32.7 billion in aid every year. That sounds like a big number, doesn't it? But listen carefully. The report also showed that $99 billion is extracted from Africa each year, through debt repayments, through multinational company profits, through illicit financial flows. And this was just the figure for 2014. Today, the number is even higher. Based on that report, Africa suffers a net loss of more than $85 billion every year. Far from the West aiding Africa, it is Africa that is aiding the West. Aid, in reality, is not helping Africa develop. It is helping to underdevelop Africa. Most aid funds given by the West come with conditions. Conditions that allow foreign multinationals to set up shop and exploit African resources. Aid creates dependency. And that dependency is one of the biggest reasons Africa should stop receiving it. Since the beginning of aid in Africa, it has become a major source of government funding. In 2009, foreign aid accounted for between 50% and 92% of total government spending in Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea-Bissau, Rwanda, and Burundi. Imagine this. Every year, budgets are drawn up in African countries, and aid is listed as revenue. Do you see why it is so easy for the West to manipulate? Because if countries refuse, the West can simply say, "We will stop the aid unless you do what we want." This is exactly what happened to Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali after their coups. Aid has become a weapon, just like sanctions, a tool of control. And worse, dependency on aid has stalled innovation. It has crushed local businesses. It has weakened markets. It has destroyed the spirit of entrepreneurship. Take, for example, the corn shipped by the UN's World Food Program to Kenya. A portion of it ends up on the black market, sold at extremely low prices. Local farmers cannot compete. They put down their hoes and walk away. So when a real famine comes the next year, Kenya has no reserves. It is a simple but fatal cycle. The same in the textile industry. In 1998, Nigeria's textile industry employed 137,000 workers. By 2017, that number had fallen to 57,000. Why? Because old clothes from Europe were packed into bags, shipped to Africa, and sold cheaply. Africans, struggling with low incomes, chose European clothes instead of African-made ones. Local industries collapsed. The fact is clear. Aid has done more harm than good. It has made Africa appear helpless, as if it cannot stand on its own. But it is time to change this. Africa can do without foreign aid. Without aid, Africa would be forced to generate its own revenue. It would have to produce and trade with fellow African nations. It would have to build infrastructure. When there is no free food dumped at low prices, farmers will return to their land. Africa will not collapse without aid. It will grow stronger. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. And don't forget to like this video, drop a comment, and share.